This is Little Green, my 1994 Chevrolet S10. And this is a can of Duplicolor vinyl and fabric specialty spray for soft surfaces and carpets and fabrics and things like that. We're going to give this stuff a shot and see just how well it works. Let's go! We're going to start by cleaning up the carpet the best that I can. Then we'll put the fabric spray on there, see how that goes, flip it over, put some new insulation on the back side of it, then put the rest of the interior back together to finish up a job that started out as just trying to find a water leak in the cab. Let's get started. The carpet doesn't have any crazy holes in it. It's just filthy. And before you say anything, this truck is nearly 30 years old. My dad used to work construction. So what I've already done is I've hit it with the old laundry stain remover on the real bad spots. I'm gonna let that soak in, break out the pressure washer, and go to town on it. Now that that stain remover's been on there for a few minutes, go hit it with the old car soap foam blaster. So now that soap's been soaking in there for a few minutes, it's in there. All right, we're gonna take the shop brush and just gonna scrub on it. Oh, that's gross. Woo. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking that up, but you can just see the truck soup rolling out of this thing. Well, I think I've got about all I'm going to get out of that carpet. Of course, without the fabric coming off the mat. Oh, jeez. Soaking wet. Very heavy because of that. Okay, this would be easier if I didn't have this safety net on here. Of course, probably have a few more ER visits for the kids too. That'll do. So I pressure washed the dickens out of this thing, and as you can see, it's still pretty rough. My dad worked construction, okay? So I'm gonna do something that I didn't want to do, and I've never really been a big fan of doing it. But I don't want to spend any more money on this truck than I absolutely have to, at least not in this department. I did order some new insulation mat. That cost me about 40 bucks. I'd rather not buy a whole new carpet when this one, aside from looking very dirty, is in pretty good shape. So back in the day, guys used to take spray paint, straight up spray paint, and spray paint the carpet in a car. Usually it was guys that were flipping them. Nowadays they've got spray dyes. I don't know. It may still just be spray paint. And they're saying, hey, this is a dye. Not a fan of this, but I'm going to do it. The directions say to spray it light coats in one direction, then hit it with a nylon brush so the fibers don't, stick together and gum up. And then as soon as you get done hitting it with that nylon brush, spray it in the other direction. So I'm going to do this in sections just to save myself some headache of trying to chase the whole thing back and forth. We'll do this part real quick. The plastic area is up there in the footwell where, it's got some protection. I've hit those with some Duplicolor adhesion promoter for plastics. Should make it where I can spray this right over it and maybe it might actually stick. Well, here goes nothing. Now I'll probably end up doing several light coats of this. Something like this being sprayed onto a fabric. If you do it too much, too fast, I don't think it would have a very good outcome. I've never actually done this before because like I said, I'm not a fan of it. I think it's a cheap way to get something done, but in this case, I'm not trying to sell the truck. It's my truck, and it's a cheap truck. So, okay, sure. So I just hit it with the spray. Where's the brush at? Got this tire scrubbing brush that I've never actually scrubbed tires with. Just gonna brush the thing a little bit. Again, this breaks up the fibers, hopefully to keep them from sticking together and getting all gummy. All right, that's done. And now it says to go in the opposite direction immediately. Every time you hit it, I'm gonna brush it. Doesn't really feel too wet. Goes on pretty dry. I guess the fabric soaks it right in. Stand up, take a look, take a step back, take a look at it, see if I can see what I see here. Well, you can tell it's different. All right, well, I guess we'll do that a couple of more times all the way around the carpet. One trip around the carpet's complete. You can still see some places where, you know, down there it was always covered so that it wasn't faded from the sun or anything like that. So it's a little darker there than the rest of it is. Overall, a lot better than it was. You can still see some stains here and kind of in the footwells. That stain will be under the seat, so I'm not too entirely worried about that. I did use almost an entire can of that spray on this. However, I bought a second because I knew this carpet was real bad. So I'm gonna let this set for a little bit and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do it all over again. And we'll see what the end result is. Hopefully, it looks halfway decent. If I were trying to do a color change on this, like from gray to black, you'd probably see the spray pattern and stuff like that. And you might need a few cans to get that just right and get it looking good. However, going gray back to gray shouldn't be too hard of a task to complete and end up looking better, at least than what it was. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are talking about a nearly 30-year-old truck that I'm just gonna cruise around to and from work and things like that anyway. And here's the end result on the carpet now. It's not perfect, but it's a whole lot better than it was. Saved me a bunch of money on buying brand new carpet. To a passerby or at a quick glance, you wouldn't notice the difference. It is a little darker than it was before, but that's okay. Again, not a show car, so we'll make that work for what we've got. All right, let's see here. Oh, God. Okay. Ready to put the new insulation on the carpet, throw the carpet back in the truck. Now, when I pulled this out, of course, that insulation was soaking wet and it came off in bits and pieces. So I don't know the exact layout of it, but the glue tells the story. So it looks like all of it. So I'll get the rest of this insulation off here and we'll get ready for the new stuff. I'm not gonna clean this up perfectly because it's okay. It'll be all right, I suppose, I reckon. Just throwing it back in an old work truck. All right, if it doesn't look much different, it's because it's not. I got some atrociously loose stuff off of it, and that's all I care to deal with. Now, insulation. Little box from LMC truck. So I got this multi-purpose insulation from LMC truck. It's not as thick as the factory stuff, but it is aluminized. Got some heat shield on the bottom of it. So I'm gonna wheel this out, take a look at the length that I need, cut it close enough, then throw some glue down on this mat. Woo, look at that stuff. Stringy. Now I want it to be as thick as it can be, but of course if you work too slow, it will dry up before you get a chance to complete the thing and get your insulation on it. Woo. This stuff's made of the stuff that Reagan tried to outlaw in the 80s. Ooh, this new insulation is soft. I'm gonna let that set for a few seconds, let it tack, then we'll plop that insulation down on top of it. Now that that's had time to set and tack up a little bit, my head is now in low Earth orbit. I'm gonna slide this bad boy over here. I'm gonna start working it into this molded shape of the floorboards up here, which is gonna require pulling it in some from the outside. I want to make sure I do that as evenly as I can. Don't want too much insulation on one side and not enough on the other. And just kind of force it into shape here. We need compliance. There's probably a better right way to do this. I won't be doing that way tonight. This is a way. And again, if it's done, if it works, it's now the right way. Let's hit it with the Vans. Oh yeah. Conform! It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be in this case. It just has to be something better than nothing. And I would say it's good enough for the girls we date, but my wife doesn't think that that's funny. It's amazing to me with how much work I've done to this carpet, pressure washing and everything, how much dirt is still in it. So I've got it flipped back over. Now I need the holes in the insulation for where the seat bolts and the seat belt bolts and all that stuff go through. Now you may have seen a guy do this on the internet before, and if you haven't, well now you will. What I've got is actually the piece of the bolt that I had to drill out of the floorboard after I broke it. Yeah, that was smart. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get this red hot, and I will use this to melt my way through the insulation on those existing holes. You don't have to do it this way either. You can get your soldering iron hot and just kind of whirl it around in there. But this should be a one and done deal with it being the right size for the holes. Now remember kids, carpet is highly flammable, so pay attention to what you're doing. Whoop, right through there like a hot knife through butter. Oh yeah, right into it. Boy, that stinks. See a little hole here. Whoop. Fish her around a little bit. There we go. I'll finish cutting out these little bits here. Get the truck back inside, clean the floor out, and it's ready to go in. All right, I vacuumed out the inside of the truck, wiped everything down with some multi-purpose cleaner just to, you know, give it a fresh start on life. I also took out the middle seat belt because nobody's ever going to use that. This piece of insulation you see right here is left over from the original carpet. It was an extra thicker piece that was in conjunction with the mat that was on the old one to help with the heat from the exhaust that runs under the passenger side right here. So it's still in good enough shape that I'm gonna reuse it. I've got some glue on it. Now the only thing left to do is go get that carpet, plop it down in here. Now what can I don't want to, yeah, we're just gonna throw it in there. Sure, there we go. Well, that's not right, is it? Here, excuse me. Starting to get her in the general location there. Carpet's in there. Now, headliner and the rest of the plastic panels. Oh, and seats. I'm ready to throw that headliner up in here. Definitely want to be more careful than I was when I was taking it out. Ah, it's upside down. Let's just beat it up on everything in the shop that we can. Ah, there we go. In there, like swimwear. Steering wheel's gonna have its way with me. It's just in the right kind of out and in the way. There we go. Get in there. Ah. There we go. And the only other people here right now are you guys, so hold that up for me. All right, so I'm getting along here, getting the back of the cab put back together, starting with the carpet on the back, then you put the plastic trim panel on top of that, then put the seats in first, bolt the seats in first. I broke these panels trying to get this stuff out the wrong way. Make sure you put it back together the right way. A few tips for you, don't do this. Second, usually when you take these panels out, your clips are going to stay stuck in the holes here. Pop those out, use a couple of screwdrivers if you have to, put them back on the plastics before you put it back in. Then get it in here, feed your seat belt through the hole like this, put it down at an angle. Don't fold the seat all the way down. Put it, oh, said not all the way down, about 45-degree angle. Slip your panel over the seat belt, so now it's sitting up in it. Pull it in a little closer, plug up your speaker wires, and now try to work it back towards the side of the truck without damaging your headliner while working it into place. Be prepared to fight this thing like it owes you money and you just caught it by mistake dinner. Oops. Got the back of it done. Now I just got to throw the shifter back in with the shift boot, throw the seats back in it, get the sun visors back in it, and then I forgot that I knocked the mirror off, so I've got to glue that back on too. Unfortunately, I've got to reuse those funky old sun visors I've got because to rewrap those require a skill set I don't have, using a needle and a thread and things like that. So I'll find another solution later, but for now I can get them back in there just to have them in there. Nobody's gonna really notice until I say, hey, look at my new headliner that I did, and I put it in there and go say, dog, what is that? What are those? Well, after a good little bath, a little bit of cleaning up on the dashboard and the door trim panels, this truck is back on the road in service and racking up the miles already. Next time you see this thing on the channel, we're going to be giving it a makeover that'll make it really stand out, as if the paint wasn't enough. Until then, guys, remember, sometimes you got to get out there and do things the hard way.